Welcome back to Jacked Up Garage, where in this episode we're going to be showing you my new E46 and what we're going to be doing to it. So I recently purchased this one from a mate where he bought it from auctions, and it turns out it had a blown head gasket. It was a 323i, and now I've ripped out the engine and I put in a 330i engine, so a 3 litre instead of a 2.5 litre. Needs a couple small things, just getting the ECU tuned at the moment. Needs a throttle body adapter, but it's pretty much all ready to go. So we're going to be showing you how to turn an E46 into a complete drift missile that you can drive at any track. So let's go have a look at some parts that I've purchased over the last few weeks. Over here we have pretty much everything you need to start a basic cheap drift car. So we're going to be doing fabrication. So we're going to be welding the diff. We've got a new high ratio diff. We're going to be making up a bit of an exhaust with a couple mufflers, and then I'll be making an intake as well. We're going to be showing you what you have to do to your suspension to make it drift nice. So first off, we're going to start with some really crap coilers, max pooping rods. They're really cheap, but they do the job. Then we're going to be chucking in some camber arms for the rear to get a nice even camber wear on the rear, and then we're going to be doing some modifications to the steering as well to get us a little bit more lock. We're going to be doing some aesthetic parts to the car, front and rear bars, lips, some indicators, just to make it look really cool while we're drifting. So let's get started on all the welding. So what we have here is a 3:9 ratio diff out of a 4-cylinder BMW. So the 6 cylinders, they come with really low ratio diffs, so like 309 or something, 32 something. I think they did come out with a 3.4 as well. All the 4 cylinders come out with higher ratios because they need a bit more grunt, get up to the speed. 3.9 ratio is going to suit our car a lot better. It's going to have quicker acceleration. It's going to be a lot more suited to the vehicle. What you need to do to make these work is just pull the shaft, the half shafts out of your medium case diff. This is a small case diff. So pull the half shafts out and just pop them in so your axles will work with this diff. It is a little bit shorter, but the CVs will take up that little bit. Also a little bit shorter that way as well. Same thing, tail shaft will take up that. So once you've pulled out your medium case shafts, you put them into the small case diff, we can go ahead and weld it. So we're going to pop off the cover. We're going to give it a really good clean, and make sure if you clean it with brake cleaner, you get all the brake cleaner out. Otherwise you will burn your face off. Let's pull that off, let's clean it, and then I'll show you where we're going to weld and what it does. Diff is all nice and clean now, very simple. All we're doing is MIG welding all of these spider gears together without getting weld on the crown wheel, pinion, or anywhere else. Just make sure you put enough weld inside of here to fuse all these together and for it to not snap, and that's all you need to do to weld your diff. Just before we chuck the diff in, we're going to chuck in some camber arms. So these camber arms are solid. They've only got a little bit of adjustment on the ends, but because we're drifting, we want as much flat contact patch of the tires as possible so we can get the best wear out of the tires as possible. So the reason why we're doing it before we do the diff is because this bolt here is really difficult to get to with the diff in. Best that we do it right now than later. So these are just eBay style camber arms, very cheap, but they do the job, and I've never seen one break before, so just going to chuck it in. So basically these just go here, and then you've got adjustment out of this arm to give you a flat contact patch. Let's put these in first. All right, we've got the camber arms in now, and as you can see when I was talking about adjustment, that's the adjustment. So we're pulling the camber out or in. So at the moment we're putting more camber into it, so we're pushing the bottom out, which in turn makes it straighter, because at the moment you can see it's got positive camber and we want it flat, so we're pulling it out now. It will camber in when we sit it back down on the ground, but we're just going to have to see where it sits once we get it on the ground. Let's put this diff in. All the diffs in now, the camber arms are in. We're just going to put the exhaust on now. So I just made this up out of just scrap metal that I had laying around. I just had a couple of mufflers laying around, some hanger pipe and just some 2.5-inch pipe. So I whipped that together. So it's just cheap. just enough to get me by. It's not gonna, there's no restrictions in flow or anything, so it's gonna do exactly what we want it to do. So let's put this in the vehicle. Diffs all welded up, exhaust is all welded up. I did say we were going to do an intake. We've done all of the engine side of things now. We've put on our throttle body adapter, took it for a drive, and it was smoking everywhere. It was the CCV valve was completely blocked, so I've had to remove that and add a catch can. So then we've completely run out of real estate where the intake was going to go, so we're just going to run the pod on the end of the airflow meter. These coilovers here are the cheapest option that you can get for an E46. They're max speeding rods and they're about 350 Australian dollars. So a good quality set of coilovers will set you back about $1,400. We're saving over $1,000 here. They're not the best quality. They don't feel the greatest, but it'll get us out to the track. Same sort of deal with our lock as well. So we're going to do steering modifications as well. These are called lock spaces. It just changes the angle of where the pickup point is for the tie rod end, giving you more angle, allowing your tires to turn more. These are about 60 Australian dollars, and a good lock here can set you back up to $1,000. So again, we're saving nearly $1,000 on these. So the last thing we're going to do is caster arm bushes. So these are the rear lollipop bushes on the lower control arms in the front. This will give us a little bit more caster because they're offset, which will help with center steering, help with the steering wheel returning to center, and then it'll feel a lot better. The more caster, the better, especially on these E46s. All right, let's get into it. We're going to start with the rear coilovers. So they're independent coil and shock. So we'll chuck them in, get some heights correct, and then we'll see how it all looks.
All right, so when it comes to fitting the rear coilovers, we've actually got a separate shock and a separate spring. So what we're gonna have to do is remove both of the dampers, which will allow the arms to drop down so we can remove the springs and then fit these springs in place and then lift everything back up, put our dampers back in and then adjust it. So let's get on to that and see how we go. Whilst installing the system, we've realized that we don't need the adjusters on the springs because we want to go lower than what that allows. So we're going to fit this in place. We're then going to get the wind up pole and lift up the whole control arm until the weight starts going off the hoist. Once that happens, we're then going to fit the bottom of the shock onto its fixing point, and then we're going to drop the whole car down and figure out our adjustment and our height from there. So let's get to it.
All right, we're happy with the rear now. We've set our heights when it's up on the hoist. We're going to get onto the fronts, finish the fronts off to be able to get it onto the ground to check all of our heights. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to install our offset control arm bushes. So that bush is the rear here. So what I'm going to do is undo the couple of bolts, hopefully tilt this down enough to pop it off, and then we can install our new bushes and then pop it back on. As you can see, the bush here is very offset. So what we're trying to achieve, more negative caster than what the standard offers. So essentially, if you can see here, so I'm inducing negative caster by pulling this lower control arm that way, like towards the camera. And then when I pull it back from the camera, it's positive caster. So we want as much negative caster as we can get out of these bushes. And then, yeah, it should steer a lot better. So let's pop these in and see how much it gives us. All right, we've got the lock spaces here. Basically all that these do They sit like this, so this one is replaced with a bolt, and then you're moving your tie rod end point inwards to this middle one, and then that just bolts to your lower control arm as well. So all we've got to do is undo that, undo that. We actually do have to shorten both the rack end and tie rod end, and then just maybe cut the edge off of this so it's got a flat surface to butt up against, because when we move it inwards, we're actually shortening the distance from here to here, because we're going from here to here. So we need to shorten these, otherwise they'll bottom out. So we've removed the tie rod end. So we're going to remove this collar completely, and then we're going to cut off about 15 to 20 mil off of here, about that much. And then same thing over here, we're going to cut off about that much. And then that'll allow us to go in further, and then that will just lock on the flat surface of that. Time to pop the coilover in. Very simple on these BMWs. We got the 3 up the top, we got the 1 that holds the bottom clamped on the bottom, and then we got 1 sway bar link. All we need to do is remove all of them, slide that one out, slide this one in, and that's what adjusts our height. So we've got to spin that up or down depending on what height we want, and then we can check what it looks like after. All the wheels are on, all the coilovers are in. So we actually fluked out quite a bit. The rears are absolutely perfect. I may go slightly lower in the front. Just depends on whether or not these wheels are going to touch. I don't think that they are. If I go a little bit more, might go about 10 mil more, but we'll see. We'll see how it drives. What I've done here is, instead of using the camber adjustment to go this way, camber only, I've actually positioned it in a way that I'll get a maximum amount of caster, because I'd rather more caster in this than more camber. If I want more camber, I can just get extended lower control arms, but yeah, I want more caster in this because they feel so much better with more caster. We're going to be trying to give this thing a little bit more street cred. So we're going to be fitting bumpers, lights, badges, steering wheel, lip kits to make this thing look better when it's going around the drift track. We're going to get started on the bumpers. Let's get into it. That's going to wrap it up for today, guys. We've actually done quite a lot of work since we've installed that steering wheel. We've had a bit of a hiatus, so we're going to try and update you on that very shortly. Hope you've enjoyed today's video on how to turn an E46 into a drift car. Thanks for watching.